What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So I'm out here in the shop tonight fixing to start work on this Bush Hog 2400 QT loader I got behind me. I'm not sure how many people is going to be interested in watching this series here on this loader. I'm not sure how many people is rebuilding loaders and stuff of this type or any type at all, but this thing's in pretty bad shape. It came on this 5610 that we just got through restoring over here. I got the canopy and everything on the 5610 there, by the way. I didn't do a video on that. That was a used canopy I got, and I got it bolted up there and everything. But anyway, getting ready to start on this. I'm stripping this thing completely down. I've already started. I sanded some on it, and I had this thing sitting outside, so I sprayed some primer on it to keep it from rusting. But the paint job they had on this evidently was pretty rusted, and they just took some paint in a paint can, I guess, and a brush and brushed it on there. So I got to get all that cleaned up. All these hoses are come off. I'm going to try to salvage these metal lines and mount them back on there the way they're supposed to be. I've got to rebuild these cylinders here. I've got the cylinder rebuild kits over there. Hopefully that's all it needs. Hopefully the bore's not scarred up. We'll find that out after we get them off and get them tore apart and everything. There's got the wrong size pins in here. I've got to see how much damage it's done to the hole, how bad it's wallered out in here, and figure out what I need to do to address that problem. If anything, if it's not that bad, I'll just put the correct size pin in there. If it's really bad, then I'll have to do something to fix it. I've got another joystick over there, or valve, loader control valve, that's a joystick style. Instead of having the two like this old-timey stuff, it'll be a joystick style like the newer ones. And I've got to build a mounting plate for it because it mounts the other direction. So I have to build a plate coming off of here, and I want it to come back a little bit further because these here you had to lean forward to reach on the tractor. So I want it to come back a little bit further as well. So I had to build that. I've got a new skid steer quick attach adapters that I'm going to build. I got the release levers over there. I have to put everything together. I'm going to use part of this here to build that, but I got to get all that built. But I'm going to strip everything down, take all the hoses off. There's only one hose on here that's any good. Maybe I can reuse that. The rest of them are all junk. Say reusing the lines, or at least I'm going to try to. I've got some different clamps over there than what the way the factory had these hoses or lines secured. I've got some clamps I'm going to weld on there. At least that's my plan, to secure these better. Guess we'll see when we get that far. But we're going to be completely tearing this thing down, pulling these pins out, these cylinders off, rebuilding them. These cylinders here have been replaced before. They weren't leaking or anything. I think they're okay. I think the rods may be slightly bent on them when I had them extended out and looked at them, but they didn't seem to be leaking any fluid. They have been replaced, so I'm not going to do anything with them other than clean them up and paint them, and we'll see how that works. As I say, everything's being taken apart, all sanded down and painted, and everything will be put back together. All right, guys, so I've made quite a mess in here in my clean shop, but I've got all the hydraulic hoses off of there, and looks like a pile of spaghetti noodles there. I'm sure that's going to be expensive. So I'm going to leave this valve on here for right now, start pulling the cylinders off, because I got to get a measurement on this valve before I take it off. I need to know the height of it and how far back it is from this loader arm in order to build my plate for the joystick valve that I got going on there, because I want to make sure that my joystick lever is in the correct position and everything. So we'll go ahead and get these cylinders off of here, and they got a whole sort of fittings on all this stuff. I don't know, it's like they used every fitting they could, fitting here, fitting here, fitting here. Then the hose, I don't understand what all the deal is with that, but the fittings are good. I'll put them in the correct places and do whatever we got to do to make sure that we got something better than this. You know, we're going back together with it. So anyway, set you guys up over here and let's start getting these cylinders off here. So I actually replaced this pin here already. It had a small diameter pin in it, and I put this pin here and there. And I don't know why I went ahead and greased it. I just thought it was a good idea when you put a pin in to grease it, which is gonna mean I'm gonna get grease all over me. I should have just not greased it. I'll put it on there because I knew I had to take everything apart, but that's beside the point. Cylinders off of there. And as I say, all we got to do to these is paint them. I think, I hope. So I'll lay it over here and it can be cleaned up a little bit and get ready for paint. Same thing on the one on the other side. And then these here have a different kind of keeper on them. They don't have a bolt. It may have a bolt when I go back together with it though. Very possible. There we go. Pin is out. Well, that one sure enough gonna come out right out. Somebody done broke it off. Even better. Alright. That cylinder is off of there. Alright guys, I need to establish a distance on this valve and a height. So I'm gonna let you guys remember all this for me. I'm looking at roughly about 20 inches right here to this handle. So I want to come back a little bit further with my joystick. So we may come back 2 foot. That'd be 4 inches from where that's at. And then our height, I'm going to hold this level up here kind of across here, I suppose. Kind of get a height off of where we're at here. Maybe 8 inches or so. Figure out a better way to do that. I don't know. Just trying to get a rough idea here. The loader's set at an angle. So yeah, if I can get it 7 to 8 inches and 2 foot back from this arm on my joystick, that'll work. It doesn't have to be exact. Obviously, I just want it to, a little better than it was. And then probably needs to come inside of the loader arm. I don't know, probably a couple, 2 or 3 inches inside, swung in a little closer to the steering wheel. Just some rough measurements to give me an idea of what I need there. What's that? 9/16 and a 3/4 looks like. Alright guys, we got all that done just about, except for pulling the main pin off here. I don't know how heavy that this thing is. If this is something I can pick up, I think it is. Do like that and be able to separate it, or if I had to crank the tractor up over there. We'll see. Alright, so I got that one pin on the other side out. Go ahead and remove this pin. This thing is probably going to want to slide down if I had to guess. We'll see. I need to let this down, I guess, drag this out of the way. Don't know if I can do that without it being a big issue when you have to crank the tractor up. This thing's not super heavy. I mean, two guys could do it easily, but I don't have a real good, I need to grab it evenly. I don't think that's going to work very well. Don't want to get pinched in between. Maybe I'll grab the front, snatch on it, and let it hit the ground. Might be the easiest thing to do. Yeah, that worked. I didn't want to get myself in a bind there and get hung up in there. Separated now. I can go piece by piece. This piece here's got a spot in it that I have to weld up. Somebody's already welded on it, but they didn't do a satisfactory job for me. They broke this out right here and then they welded it back in, as you see, and it doesn't even look like it's straight. And that probably happened because I was running the wrong size pins in here. So I got the right size pins over there, but this part here just holds it in. The pin locks in place through a bolt here, so the pin is not supposed to pivot in here, but the way the pins that they put in there did, because they just stuck a regular pin in there and let it pivot here. The pin is supposed to pivot down there. That's where the grease joint's at, it's down there, not up here. So I don't know. I had to get this picked up here, see how bad these are, but it has a grease zerk in the back of it, and that's where your grease is supposed to go in. This is a pivot point, and the pin's supposed to be locked in here with a bolt or a clip. So I have to figure out what I need to do with that, whether I'll cut these out and get another piece of a pipe or bushing made, or if I can just weld that up a little bit and kind of grind it out and do the best I can, or if it's that wore out. We'll see. All right, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and remove these 3 bolts right here on each side, and remove this piece of pipe out from between these two. That way I can maneuver each piece individually. I think it'll make it a little easier to maneuver around and work with, and do the repairs on. I believe I've already loosened these up just a bit. If you're wondering why it's using an impact wrench on the bolt side instead of the nut side, so I wanted the bolt to turn inside there. That way if there's any rust in here, it would break the rust loose as well, like that. So come out. And I'm just going to put these nuts back on here. Keep up with them. Probably get some new bolts, maybe. Think about it. Should make things a little lighter, a little easier to maneuver around there. Alright guys, we're going to see if I can set this up here on the sawhorse. Get it off the floor. Better work on it. Best way to go about this. See if maybe I go over this way a little bit. Best way to go about it. We'll see. We got it done. Alright guys, that looks like a pretty good stopping spot for tonight. I got everything disassembled, tore apart. Looks like it exploded. Parts scattered everywhere. I was looking at these holes here where the pins go through. These don't have bushings in them or anything like an excavator or anything like that. It's just basically a piece of pipe, or it probably machined on a lathe, or a heavy wall pipe. But anyway, there's a little bit of a slop in there from the factory. And this does not appear to be too bad here, and it makes sense because this is a bigger bearing surface than what was on there. It's quite a bit of wear in a couple of those right there. I should be able to fix that either by welding it up and grinding it out on the inside, because the pin is actually not supposed to move in there, as I said earlier. So once I get it, just so there's not a whole lot of slop in there, put a bolt in it to keep the pin from rotating. Make sure this is greased, and we should be okay there. As I say, it's not like an excavator where it needs to be line bored and all that stuff. It's just an old farm tractor. So I guess the next thing is I need to try to sort out these lines here and kind of get them laid out back to where they went and straightened up, and figure out how to route them. And that way I can mark out where I need to put, I'm going to grind these factory hydraulic clamp plates off, and I've got some aftermarket different clamps over there that's a little different than that I'm going to mount, and there'll be more of them. I don't know why they didn't put more of them from the factory than 2, but I've got a few more of them, and then we're going to put them in there and to hold those lines in place like they should have been from the get-go. Alright guys, I've done a little bit of sanding here and sprayed a light coat of primer on it, and I want to try to get my lines fit up that originally came in those brackets up there. I'm going to remove those brackets, and I've got some different kind of mounts I'm going to use, but I want to use those as a reference point to figure out about how these things laid from the factory, because they're all bent up and everything. I've got some bar clamps there. I'm going to try to clamp these things in place to kind of get them straight and laid out to where I think they might go, because they have made a mess of them. I'll start with the longer ones first. Maybe I can tell more about them. Supposed to lay across that right there. I do know that. Somehow. And you can see how that doesn't even line up with anything. So I think I need to get my wrench over there. I'm going to crack this loose and roll this line over that away, and see if we can get this thing lined up and straightened out. I don't know if that goes in the top bracket or the bottom bracket. but I'm assuming it goes in one or the other. And I think the other one here is going to go right beside it. Wow. See, that looks kind of like it would go right about there. By looking, the fitting's all wrong and crooked and the line's bent. It's going to take a little bit of doing here to get this straightened out. I don't know if I can see where it was originally clamped at or not. I don't know. What a mess. I don't know, I'm just going to clamp it right about there and kind of work it from right there and go from there. This one I'm going to take loose here. All right, so I broke this line here loose. Maybe not quite enough yet. Hopefully that will allow it to turn. Be closer to being correct over here. That one there is actually not too terribly bent up. I mean, it ain't great. I think I can make something like that work. I don't know if that was supposed to be directly on top of this pipe here or just in front of it right there or just how, but kind of sort it out as I go. All right, so that'll hold the lines in place while I try to sort out what I got going on here. Get these fitting where I want them to. See, this here has been bent. It looks like it should go up here a little bit, and then this has been all kicked out of whack. Something like that. See what I'm saying there? I think I can bend that a little bit more right here downward. All right, guys, so these are the clamps I got. This is what I'm trying to accomplish here, is I'm trying to get these lines lined up here, and I think I've got these right here pretty close to about where they go. These are beta clamps for 1/2-inch tube. That's a double clamp. Single clamp would have a bolt on each side and a tube in the middle. Double clamp's done like this. Anyway, you get it lined up, you weld this base plate right here to your whatever you're bolting it to, and then you put your lower piece on there, put your tubes in between it, and you tighten that down, and that holds your lines in place. There is a difference between a 1/2-inch tube and a 1/2-inch hose. A 1/2-inch hose clamp is a bigger diameter because the hose is larger, but these are for tube, which is what I got here, and this is what I'm trying to accomplish by getting these lined up. I want to space these and get them, put some more of them on here, take these here off, and put these, one up here and then some down there, to better hold these things in place is my plan. All right, guys, so this is what I've got rigged up here now. So far, I clamped the lines together and I got my base plates and everything laid out where I want them. I still like a little bit of tweaking on those lines where those are touching right there, but I can better do that after I get these welded on and snug them up so I'm not prying against the clamps. I can get those to fit a little bit better. I'm not 100% sure if this is the correct way to go about this. I thought about plumbing this with just, you know, all soft hydraulic hose instead of using this tubing. And I may have been better off going that way, but I thought since it came with this tubing here that it would be better. But I don't know. My Mahindra is plumbed with just a regular hydraulic hose over there. I'll show you here on it. See, it doesn't have any tubing on it. It's all soft hose, 3/8 soft hose, whole thing. And I thought about doing that, and that may have been a better option. I don't know, but I figured it came with tube. I would try to put it back in tube, straighten this out and reuse it. I don't know that I'm saving any money by doing so, because you use twice as many fittings, even though you're not using you know, as much hose. Instead of having one length of hose from your valve all the way down here, you got a fitting there, and then on the other end you got another fitting where the hose picks up, or where the tubing picks up. So I don't know if you're really saving anything doing it this way. I don't understand why that they didn't bring that right there over to the center of the loader. At least that doesn't make any sense to me why they did that. They put the T right there. You would have thought they would have brought that second set of hoses all the way over, or tubing all the way over here like this, like they did on this one, but they didn't. They ended over there, so you'll have to run soft tubing or soft hose from there over here. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It doesn't make any sense to me why they only put 2 clamps up here, one clamp for each set of lines either. I think factory they had hose clamps around this right here to hold this. You'd have thought they would have did something a little better than that from the factory, but I guess not. So anyway, I'm gonna fire the welder up and tack these base plates right there, and then I will take these lines off, and then I can weld that base plate on, and then put the lines back up there, finish getting them straightened out where they'll go in place. We'll pull them back off and finish getting everything prepped, getting ready for paint. All right, guys, well, this is what we got here. Everything's just finger tight, but I've got everything welded, back primered up and everything, and mounted up there. And they're not perfect, but it's acceptable for what it is. I've got to take everything back apart now and sand the lines down, paint the lines, finish sanding the loader boom down, paint it, and then reassemble everything and tighten it all back up and all that. But it's just up there finger tight to make sure everything fits, and I think it looks okay. I think I'm gonna call it a night after doing this and work on this another day. All right, guys, we're getting ready to paint this loader frame here, loader boom. I got a fan sitting outside the door here to pull the fumes out, so hopefully I don't get overspray all over everything in here. I'm using my tractor here to hold this up, and I've got it all primed and everything, sanded down, finished up, ready to go. So I'm gonna spray some blue paint on that, and I've also got the loader stands over here. These things are not in the best of shape in the world, but I'm gonna spray a little bit of blue paint on them as well while I'm painting. Probably never use them. Usually the only time I take a loader off of a tractor is to work on the tractor or something like that. It's very rare that I take those off. So I'll set you guys up over here, and we'll see if we can get some paint started on this thing. got these lines here that go on the loader there. I've got them all sanded down, which was a real fun project in itself. Took a couple hours. I did some of it by hand. I did some of it with the palm sander, but it's hard to hold this line, hold the sander. I don't know, it's just not a fun deal. Anyway, I'm going to prime these things, and then I'm going to paint them with some black paint and let them dry. And that way, I think it'll look a little bit better and everything. Be a two-tone color. And I'm hoping these things are not too bad rusted out. They got a few rust bits in them, but I want to sand them down and do this way, and that way it will protect them a little bit. Hopefully they don't spring a leak on me. All right, guys, I got them all mounted on there, kind of like I envisioned in my head. They don't look too terribly bad. So anyway, I'm gonna set this thing down. I've moved my sawhorses back, and I've got one of these loader brackets up here. Getting it sanded and getting it prepped for paint. I still got to figure out what I'm gonna do with these bushings here, whether I'm gonna make some new bushings or weld these up and rebore them. It looks like it may be easier just to get some new bushings, cut these out and put some in, but we'll see. Anyway, I'm gonna let this thing down on this block of wood here, and we're done with it for now till we get ready to start reassembling the brackets. And then I've got to paint the cylinders up there still and hang those back on the front. Still got to rebuild them before we can install those. Electricity went out and it's coming a storm. I don't think you can see me or hear me probably, but anyway, this is really nice. Geez, man, it is coming down. All right, guys, so I have decided I'm going to go ahead and replace these bushings right here. What this is DOM tubing that they've used. It's 1 inch ID, 1.5 inch OD, so that means it's quarter wall. I ordered a piece 6 inches long. It has not come in yet. But anyway, that seems to be the easiest way to fix this. I had in mind, was thinking about welding these up and then taking a mag drill with a 1 inch annular cutter on it and reboring it, but that's actually more expensive, and it'll probably wind up running the cutter trying to cut through that weld because that weld is so hard. So anyway, 6 inches of this tubing wasn't all that expensive. Just got to figure out kind of way to hold it. I don't have a good vise or anything to hold it, so I may have a little trouble cutting it being it's that short. But anyway, when I get it in, I'll cut me some pieces off this length. I'm going to go ahead and take the carbon arc gouger over here and cut these welds out and get this prepped so that when the piece of tubing comes in, I can cut my bushings out of it and get everything prepped so it won't take but a minute to weld them back in. All right, guys, I've got those ears there gouged out and prepped to be welded when I get my new piece in. That one ear down there they had that was broke off because that socket wasn't welded all the way around. It was just tack welded on the outside, and they broke the ear off and kind of patch jobbed it. Anyway, I'll fix that whenever I get the piece in there. I'll weld it in there good and fix that up. But I got them all prepped up here. I've got this one. I've been sanding on this one and spraying some primers on the primer on the part that I'm done with and everything. So just waiting on to get my tube in so I can get that in there, and we'll finish getting these pieces prepped up and getting them ready to paint. All right, guys, so this is the piece of DOM tubing I ordered, 6 inches long. It is 1.5 inch OD, 1 inch ID. I've got all this here prepped, ready to go. This is going to sit in there like that. Be flush on the bottom right there, and then I'm going to get it positioned up and go ahead and weld it in place and then cut it off, because I don't have a real good way to cut it off beforehand. I don't have a chop saw. I've got a bandsaw, a portable bandsaw, and a grinder with a cutoff wheel, and I want to get a pretty straight cut. So I think the easiest thing like that, and use this magnetic square to hold it up here and get her tacked in there, and then I can cut it off here and that longer length to help me maybe get it a little straighter too. And I'll probably have to put the pin in there because this is a really tight fit on this 1 inch pin over here. It's I don't know, it's probably an 8 or 10 thousandths fit here. I'll show you guys. So this is the 1 inch pin, and that is the fit right there. It is pretty snug. In fact, it's so snug the label, as you see, won't let it go in there. So anyway, there won't be any slop right there. There's, like I say, maybe 8 or 10 thousandths. So I'll have to put this pin in there once I get my two pieces to make sure they're lined up, because if there's any kind of draw on the weld or anything when I weld it, it will not fit. The pin won't be able to go in there. So anyway, let me get this thing lined up over here, and I'm gonna get her tacked in place. All right, guys, I got it stuck up there. Put a little TIG weld, a couple tacks around it there. And I'm going to cut it off right here where I got this mark at 1 inch with the portable bandsaw there. And then I'll do the same thing on the other side. Get it positioned, run the pin through so it lines up, tack it with the TIG machine, cut it off, and then I can lay it down over there and get the MIG machine out and put a sure enough weld around it. Pretty straight cut. So I ought to be able to lay this on over, stick my pin in, and get it lined up that way. I may have to grind this out right here for this pipe to fit. Alright, pretty good. I had to clean up just a touch with a grinder, the die grinder. So, oh, okay, it ain't going all the way in because of that label. I'll twist it. Get that label off of there, I believe. Alright, so I'll try to tap it just a little bit. I may have to take just a little bit off of it right here. No, that went right down in there. A little bit too far. That looks pretty good right there. Taps on it. Still in frame there or not? Yeah, good enough. Battery's not dead on my GoPro. Dip my tungsten in there. Let's sharpen that. So we'll let her cool there, and we'll measure up an inch, cut it off, and then our pin should go all the way through there. And then I'll go ahead and weld it out, and then the last thing I'll do is drill my hole through for my pin. That actually is going to have a bolt that'll go through and hold that pin in. All right, guys, so I'll get a bead run around this with a MIG welder. But there you have it, how she's going to look. That pin is a tight fit in there, as you see. There's no kind of slop or anything. This pin is actually too long. The pins that came in this were a lot shorter. I actually made this bushing here longer than the factory one. And you see the hole don't quite line up, but probably what I'm going to do is drill that out right there and put a bolt in there. And you could put like that keeper right there back in there, but you really want this pin to stay stationary. See, that's what happened before. This pin's supposed to be stationary. Your pivot point is the other part of your loader arm, and it has a grease zerk right here, which is right down there. And that's your pivot point. This here is a stationary pin, but because they put the wrong pin in there and a too small diameter, that's what caused it to pivot here and it to waller these out and me having to do all this work here. But anyway, I'll get it welded up and get it fixed up, and I'll be back with you guys when we're ready for the next step. All right, guys, a dual shield flux core, putting that in there like it's going on a D6 or something. So anyway, it is a very snug fit, but that's good. That's what we wanted. No slack in that. This one over here is the one that the ear was broke off of that I showed in the other part of the video, I believe. It come out good. I don't think it'll be breaking off again. Shouldn't have broke off to start with if they didn't have the incorrect pins off there and was using it for who knows what. But anyway, got everything welded up. It's ready to get a little primer on there, and then we'll paint them. All right, guys, I got the pinhole drill right there, a bolt hole drill, so I can put either a pin or a bolt in there. And I only did it that way because that's the way the factory one's done. And then I can cut this pin off down here flush because that's the way it came from the factory, and it'll match everything else. Had a flush pin on the back side with a bolt hole on the outside, as you can see here. And it had a Carter key in here, but I'm probably going to put bolts in there just because. So yeah, all I got to do is cut that pin off and put a bolt there. That'll look like a factory, like everything else does. Alright guys, well, I've got it partially way back assembled, all except for the hoses and the cylinders and stuff, and we still got to rebuild these cylinders here if they're rebuildable. I hope they are. I done bought the rebuild kit for them. Don't went this far in the project, but I guess we'll see. This looks like a pretty good spot to wrap this video up in. I'm sure it's getting kind of long, but yeah, it's coming along. Everything's going pretty good so far. I did not cut those pins off like I talked about, and I may not. I may just leave them the way they are up there. They're not going to hit anything right there. I don't know, I'll see. I may come back and cut them a little shorter the way the factory pins are that's there on the floor. But we'll see. We got to get cylinders rebuilt, hoses. We still got to build a mounting plate right here for the joystick style valve that I have, and get it mounted up here. I'll use the same hole pattern, so it'll bolt right there in the same spot, but it'll be a different bracket, a little longer, and turn the opposite direction because of the way that joystick mounts and whatnot. And then we still got to do the skid steer quick attach setup on it as well after we get everything lined out. So quite a lot more to do, and a lot more hours to go into it. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up for now. So thanks for watching. We'll see you guys in the next video.